Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to a brand new series of the 51% show about women reshaping our world. It's our 5th season and we're kicking it off by asking that important question, can men really be feminists? Coming up, we meet the men who see equality as being integral to their daily lives and are doing what they can to right the balance. Also, we put the question to gender equality activist Gary Barker and journalist and writer Julie Bindel, who argues that feminism is in danger of men colonising it for their own benefit. Now, it seems these days that not a day goes past without one prominent man proudly describing himself as a feminist. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with actors Will Smith and Ryan Gosling, have become some of the most prominent male supporters of gender equality. Our team in Los Angeles went to meet the men who not only talk the talk, but in fact walk the walk.
Every week, dozens of women come to this studio to unleash on Nelson Neo. A former computer engineer, Nelson devotes his time to helping women defend themselves. He made the drastic career move after one of his friends was sexually assaulted.
She was walking from her car to her apartment when a guy just grabbed her neck from behind, smashed her head to the wall, beat her up, ripped out her clothes.
Every 2 minutes, a woman is assaulted in America.
I feel empowered. I feel strong and confident now.
Nelson believes it was misogynistic comments made by Donald Trump during his election campaign that prompted some women to empower and protect themselves.
After the election, a lot of people are scared. A lot of women are scared. So, yeah, they feel they need to pretty much empower themselves, know what to do at least.
Men are joining the fight. For some, feminism begins at home. Every day at 4 p.m., Adrien de Souza, a French native living in Los Angeles, picks up his son from daycare. He's among a growing number of Californian men opting to dial back their careers and encouraging their wives to progress theirs.
Maybe some men find what I do impossible or unlikely. It might be the activism associated with feminism that makes men not concerned.
A recent study by the Washington Post shows that 1/3 of American men identify as feminists. Adrienne believes education is key to breaking down traditional gender norms.
It's not because you're a girl that you have to learn how to cook or to sew. I would like Benjamin to learn all of these necessary skills in life that allow anybody to emancipate himself, whatever the gender.
Feminism is also gaining male allies in Hollywood.
Courtney follows him and stands in the doorway of her home.
Michael Morin has worked alongside Hollywood director David O. Russell for years. He's conducting a table read of his most recent script, which he co-wrote with Malia Renee.
What if we didn't talk about men at all when we were together? What if we only
It shines a light on the importance of feminist activism.
The best I can do, aside from protesting and speaking up when I need to, is creating content and creating things.
Morin says it's hard to challenge Hollywood's traditional macho culture with a female-centric script. Studio's gender skepticism is still rife.
Oh, I'm not sure where this could go.
Yeah, where does this fit?
We mainly work with male-centric storytelling.
There's more women in the world than there are men. So why are you not capitalizing on that?
Increasingly, men are seeing feminism as more than just a word or a trend, but as a fight for equal rights, rights that benefit everyone.
Which makes it very clear that Barbara rarely takes any interest in Sandra.
Now, joining me from London is journalist and writer Julie Bindel, and from Washington, D.C., Gary Barker, the president and CEO of Promundo, an NGO that promotes gender justice and aims to prevent violence by engaging men and boys in partnership with women and girls. Thanks to both of you for giving us some of your time. Julie, let me start with you. We've been running a Twitter poll over the last 24 hours that's been asking people that question: can a man really be a feminist? Now, out of 750 votes, 55% said no, while 45% said yes. So let me ask you the question: can a man be a feminist?
A man can be a feminist ally, but ultimately women are feminists or feminists are women. And the reason why I say this is because we need men to be supportive of feminism by relinquishing their power. It's not, for example, feminist for a man to take joint responsibility for raising his children. It's not feminist for a man to take joint responsibility for doing the housework in the home that he shares with a woman. But it is pro-feminist, and it is being a feminist ally, if a man educates other men about rape and sexual assault, unequal pay, female genital mutilation, forced marriage, and all the other issues that face women and girls. But men have to recognise that the first step in being a feminist ally is relinquishing some of their power, because ultimately feminism is about taking that power away from men.
Gary, what would you say to what Julie has just said?
I mean, I agree with nearly all of it, in the sense that, I think that all those things that Julie listed of what men should do, I think they are simply what men should do to be better, fuller human beings and to do what's right and what's just.
I don't want men to hand women over any power. I want men to relinquish their power, the power that they have, the privilege that they have when they're born male. The privilege that's afforded them whether they ask for it or not. And I don't want women to become the patriarchs.
Julie, can I just ask you, if a man came up to you and said, I'm a feminist, what would you say to him in response?
I'd ask him what he means by that. And the reason why, first of all, I would say feminist ally rather than feminist is because in every other social justice movement, we recognise it's the people who are leading the revolution or the resistance that are allowed to have their own labels. So if a man came up to me and said that he was a feminist ally, for example, or pro-feminist, I'd say, what do you mean by that? And if he said, I do my bit, I help with the childcare, I'd say that doesn't make you a feminist ally at all. It makes you quite patronising and very misguided. But if he were to say to me that he recognises that men have a choice whether they rape women, whether they beat women, whether they take more money than women for doing the same job, and that he's trying to educate other men out of their bad behaviour, out of their violent attitudes and actions that affect women, then I would say that's great. What we need men to do is exactly that.
Julie, at this point, let me bring in Gary. Gary, do you call yourself a feminist?
I think I would call myself a feminist ally or a pro-feminist, and I would say my work is definitely inspired by feminists. And so, I mean, our work really is, it's building on what came before. And I do agree with Julie of being careful about, how we appropriate causes, and really to acknowledge that, yes, the patriarchy plays itself out and has a cost every day on the bodies of women. And so I do think that we need to acknowledge that's where the field came from. I suppose I might take it one step further, which is to say, I want men being more than allies in this. And I worry sometimes that men kind of see themselves as, well, as a pro-feminist, I'm sort of doing myself a favor for women and girls. And I want to take it a step further and say, I want men to feel how the lack of gender justice and gender equality in the world causes harm to women and girls for sure, but it also causes harm and makes our lives as men and boys less full, less rich.
Julie, you've written hashtags like he for she, and books such as Hot Feminist have not only not helped, but in fact hindered progress towards equality. That's a strong statement to make, because isn't it counterproductive when the reality is that everybody should be involved in the battle for equality, come in whatever form or fashion?
Absolutely agree. if they are involved in the battle for equality. And just a little caveat there, I think that feminists that strive for equality are lacking in imagination. I think we need liberation, because to be equal to men is to keep the structure of patriarchy in place, and to simply say that we need to appoint more women as CEOs of big companies and look at the women at the top rather than the women at the bottom. So I want liberation. I think that we live in a rotten society, and patriarchy is a big cause of that. And yeah, the reason why I've actually said that sometimes the kind of fun feminism, I would call it, or faux neo-feminism, is more harmful than good, is exactly that. The majority of men who sign up to being pro-feminist allies are those that don't really want feminism. They want some kind of individualistic neoliberal version of feminism. So they see it as liberatory for women to be slut walking or lap dancing or sex working, as they would call it. They see it to be an individual choice of women to be oppressed, to be abused, so long as that woman is saying, hey, this is great for me. So the kind of thing that men love, that are the kind of fun feminist lovers, are exactly the kind of issues and dynamics that keeps and maintains their privilege.
Gary, you've said that you think too much of the work to achieve full rights for women and girls lets men off the hook. But do you understand what Julie is saying?
Yeah, I think I agree with her at the beginning of what she was just saying right now about, what I would call sort of a light feminism, which somehow thinks we can separate out all the structural and the intersectionality aspects that go along with feminism that I absolutely think have to be there for it to achieve what we believe it should achieve. So I absolutely agree. It becomes really easy to create these kind of one-off slogans where, he for she is just the bar is far too low. Not to mention that it continues to repeat a notion of that men get to decide whether they do favors for women, as opposed to a world that says there is no choice. You have no choice but to accept and live equality.
I'm afraid at this point I'm going to say that we've come to the end of this discussion. No doubt it will continue. I want to thank both of you for giving us some of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page and tell us what you think, and that's France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and please do keep those comments and suggestions coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.